What up, Ram Squad Show? It's your boy Mike Brockers, and this was a true definition of a trap game.
I'm Gavin Carlson, and not only was this a loss, but a huge missed opportunity in the NFC playoff picture as well.
And I'm Doug McCain, and sometimes Sean McVey makes things harder than they need to be.
Ram Squad Show, we're having a little technical difficulties. We're trying to get this intro going, guys. A loss this bad, I guess it's going to give us technical difficulties as well. Let's just bring Big Brock back in here.
Whose house? Rams house. It's the Rams Squad. Everything Los Angeles Rams every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the City of Angels. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Here comes the Rampede. The Rams Squad Show starts now.
Technical difficulties as bad as the game for our Rams. What is going on, Ramley? And welcome back to the Rams Squad Show. The Mob Squad is here. We got Big Brock. We got D-Mac back in here. I'm Gavin Carlson. And oh my goodness, the Rams fall in Carolina, of all places, to the Panthers. A game where the Rams started out real slow, looked like they were going to have a nice comeback win, something to be really proud about. You know, we aren't in this opportunity very often, but the Rams fall short and pick up a stunning loss. We're going to talk about everything. I mean, this game going the way nobody expected. The Panthers also, got to give them their credit. They did play very well in this one. And we'll also talk about if this is a huge missed opportunity in the NFC playoff race. Before we do, quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show. It is FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We got the Mob Squad in here. D-Mac's on a boat. He's on a cruise. Big Brock back in Texas. Oh, man, who wants to go first in terms of what the heck just happened?
I can hit it, man. Look, I'm on a boat. I thought the Rams were going to cruise, but that wasn't the case. Like Big Brock said, a classic trap game. And in the preview show, my man Julian, who covers the Locked On Panthers, I was, sometimes those crossover shows, you're just trying to be nice and you don't want to dog their team when you're a superior team. But I said again, I was like, there's just something about this game that feels weird. It's an early kickoff East Coast game. The fact that the Panthers still had something to play for. Anytime you have playoff hopes alive, every team is dangerous in the National Football League. And the thing that I said to him that would give the Panthers a fighting chance is if Matthew Stafford could look like a human being and not a superhero for 1 week. And that's what happened in the first quarter, in the first half. I mean, you had a pick six, you had an interception in the end zone, you had that fumble late. It was not the MVP Matthew Stafford. And they still had a chance to win. It was the rain. I think Sean McVey is trying to air it out in the rain when you're averaging 7.2 yards per carry. Corm and Kyron both toting the rock well. So missed opportunity for sure. And I do think that, this kind of makes the Rams feel a little more human this week. I don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think this is the Titanic going into an iceberg or anything like that. But I do think that, it is kind of one of those, let's have a little reality check that anyone in the NFL can beat any team on any given Sunday.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game where, both units are going to be blamed, right? I'm looking at the chat right now. There's some people saying, how are we going to blame the offense? Look at what the defense did. They just gave up 31 points to Bryce Young in the rain, right? Which is a completely valid point. Brian right here, he says it. Rainy game, what the hell? 31 points to Bryce Young. But at the same time, there's people in here saying, I blame Stafford and McVey way more than the defense. I mean, Big Brock, we were talking before we went live here. Got to be surprised with how effective the Panthers were against this Rams defense as well, right?
Yeah, it was crazy because I think Drew Brees was calling this game for us in Carolina, and he made a huge statement about the Carolina Panthers when they went against Green Bay, which he said was, Carolina versus a team of this caliber, they love to take the air out of the game, and what that pretty much means is let's run the ball. Let's get good yardage. Let's stay ahead of the sticks. When you're getting 3 yards, 4 yards a pop on your running game, let's continue to do that. Let's just kind of wear on this team. And as I watched the game, it was crazy because I was like, dang, that's similarly what they were doing. They were taking the air out of the game. They were taking the ball out of Stafford's hands. Obviously, our offense is an offense that can score very quickly. But if in the third quarter, if they don't touch the ball for 14 minutes, it's hard for you to really get in a rhythm and things of that nature. So for me, I think it was just a great game plan by the Panthers, really to take the rock out of our offense's hands, really, just wear on the defense. And then when our offense gives, their offense the ball, if we have 3 turnovers, our defense is just getting more wore down. So I think it was just, like I said at the beginning, so ultimate, picture of a trap game when you got a team that's this hot in the Rams coming into town, and you kind of have that thought process of like, we can just show up and we'll win. And you see it, we look very human today. It has to be something with that West Coast traveling to the East Coast with an early time added to it. So I think this was just a perfect storm for the Rams to end up in this situation, which like you said, we had a chance to come back and win, but it's just hard to overcome 3 turnovers, 1 4 pick six, and to also play great defense, play great offense. It was a tough hill to climb for the Rams, and ultimately I think really the best team won. From watching the game, I think Carolina just had that itch, that want to today, as far as in the rain and weather being a consideration. So I think the better team won today, but obviously, as you said, Doug, it's not the Titanic, but it's definitely a lesson. It's not a loss. It's more of a lesson. Obviously, it's a loss on our record, but it's more of a lesson that this is what a team can do to you if this is your Achilles heel. It's trying to take the ball out of your hands. It's essentially what San Fran did early in the season, is just keep Stafford and that offense on the bench.
Yeah, and this is a confusing Panthers team too, because on one side of the coin, you look at this team and they just put up 9 points on Monday Night Football against the Niners. They looked absolutely abysmal. Bryce Young will have game. That game, Bryce Young had 28 yards at halftime, right? Like, what are we talking about here? But then you look at this same team and they put up 30. I know the Falcons aren't great, but they put up 30 on the Falcons. They beat the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, not in a high-scoring game, but still heck of a win. But at the same time, they lose by 10 to the Saints, right? Like, what the heck is this team? And it just felt like, unfortunately, the Rams ran into the Panthers one of those weeks where they actually played good football. You got to give Bryce Young a little bit of credit in the sense that he knew when to take the chance, if that makes sense. 15 to 20, pretty efficient, just 200 yards, but 3 touchdowns, no picks. And the ability to, obviously they relied on the run game heavy, 40 carries for 164 yards, but his ability to just, take the 3-yard pass to the tight end, take the 2-yard pass to the running back in the flat, and then boom, when we need it, I'll take the shot to Jalen Coker. When we need it, boom, I'll find Tet McMillan for a touchdown, right? 33-yard touchdown to Jalen Coker. Tet McMillan, 1 catch, but it's a 43-yard touchdown bomb, right? So the ability to be patient, wait for the right time to go deep. And unfortunately, we've been talking up this Rams secondary in recent weeks. Manuel Forbes got cooked a couple times. Secondary as a whole struggled a little bit. And I'm still waiting for this front seven. They did it a little bit in that Bucs game, but just take over, man. The Panthers offensive line is not good enough to only get 2 sacks. Bryce Young takes a lot of sacks. He's a small guy. You can, make it congested for him in the pocket. Just 2 sacks. You would like to see more negative plays. But like you said, Brock, it was a slow, methodical Panthers drive after drive. And the best way to stop that, get a sack, get a tip ball. No turnovers. When you throw 2 picks, it's going to be really hard to win a game. And yeah, I don't know if it's an awful loss, but it does feel like the more concerning thing is not that you lost to the Panthers, but that you clearly got outplayed, right? It wasn't an unlucky thing. You got outplayed by the Carolina Panthers. D-Mac, how concerned are you about that aspect, especially watching, the Panthers offense that just puts up 9 points on the Niners, 200 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, running the ball for 165 yards.
To be honest with you, I'm not overly concerned. I think this is hopefully a small wake-up call to a team that's been great all season. They've made it look easy against really good teams. They come off that big win over the Bucs, AD night, Brock's in the house, and everything's feeling great. But I think, look, this is rivalry weekend in college football, and that's the week where it doesn't matter what your record is. Guys are going to show up and give you their best game. That's how it is when teams have a chance to make the playoffs. That's how it happens when you're Bryce Young, who's playing for an extension, a fifth-year option, right? You're going to get their best football at home to try to knock off the Rams. And I think today what's frustrating about it, though, is the Rams just not leaning on what was working. You mentioned the run game being effective. And yes, Kyron left with the ankle injury, but some of the biggest plays, Blake Horn breaking off the runs that he broke off when he did. The big block from Jordan Whittington there. And also, too, just the conservative play calling by Chris Shula on defense. To get to Bryce Young, to rattle him, the Rams have the personnel to get to him and make life heck for him. And they just did not do that. And that, if you want to kind of point out the thing that has not been his biggest strength this year for Chris Shula, that's making bad quarterbacks look better than they are. We saw that against the 49ers with Mac Jones, and I think we saw that today with Bryce Young. Look, Bryce Young has some talent, right? I'm not saying he's a bust. I'm not saying that he's terrible. I'm not saying any of that kind of stuff. But some of the plays that he made today, I think, were in zones where he could take advantage of them. He had time to throw. He executed those throws. I think, too, just some of the game calling, taking the delay of game when they did some of the timeout mismanagement towards the end of the game, put him in a spot where he can make that throw to Ted McMillan. I just think that the Rams felt like, hey, maybe we win this one close, but we're going to find a way to win this game by our style. But they didn't account for the turnovers, and that is the big equalizer. Brock pointed out, in the NFL, you just don't overcome a turnover deficit like that. I don't care what your record is. I don't care how much talent you have. You just don't do it. What we should be talking about is that catch from Puka Nacua, the best catch of the year, potentially. But instead, this is a disappointing loss. There's no doubt about it. I'm not furious about it, though. Yes, you do fall behind the Bears in the NFC, but this is a reminder that even the Rams, yes, statistically, they have a chance to go down as one of the best teams based on a top 10 offense, a top 10 defense, some of their deeper analytics and things like that. But I think this team needs to get back to the kind of the chip on your shoulder. No one believes in us. We're not the trendy pick of the NFL Rams, right? I like the Rams when they're getting doubted. It kind of felt like I want some people off the bandwagon, right? I want them off the bandwagon. Let us drive that for them, right? So I'm not totally I hate to lose, trust me. But in big picture, I don't think today changes. Do the Rams have as good of a shot as anyone to come out of the NFC? Do they have as good of a shot as anyone to win the Super Bowl? Anyone out there just saying the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl? That's ridiculous, right? Anyone saying that is just with full confidence is absurd. But to say that they still have as good of a shot as any team out there, I think they do. And that's still on the table, even though it's an extremely frustrating loss.
Yeah, it felt like, the drive before, the one you're mentioning, the Puka amazing catch drive, that kind of felt like the moment, at least I personally am like, hey, this is the rare opportunity for the Rams to come from behind. In recent weeks, I know Big Brock's been saying all along he likes the Rams when they're behind. And this was the first time they've been behind and needed a clutch drive in weeks. And it was kind of like, hey, maybe this is a good opportunity for the Rams to see if they can do it. And they go down. I'm sitting there, I'm looking at Puka. I'm like, Puka's got like 3 catches, like for like 40 yards. What's going on? And right away, perfect timing. Guy goes up, makes an unbelievable catch. A couple plays later, it's a touchdown. Rams go ahead, and you're thinking they did exactly what you needed to do to win this football game. But, man, at the end of the day, the Rams defense gets burned again, gives up the touchdown and go behind, and then obviously not able to come through. So it's one of those things where it could have been the perfect recipe where you win the game, but you barely win it. It's a little bit of a wake-up call. Also, you get to see what the Rams look like when they need a touchdown in a close game because we haven't seen that recently. And instead, the defense falls through. Big Brock, you might be a little biased when you answer this question, but you blaming this one more on the offense or the defense?
Man, you win together, you lose together. I can't blame either or. Because obviously, this is the first time we've seen our defense look human, team scoring at will, a team really running the ball, being effective at running the ball. That's the first time this season, honestly, I can say that a team really ran the ball on us. You got Hubbard with 83 yards, you got Dowles with 58 yards. So I felt like they were effective in the run game for a little bit of the time. Not most of the time, but for a little bit of time, I felt like they were effective in the running game. And then also, you have the offense, having 3 turnovers, so that makes it a really big deal to overcome. So, I mean, like I said earlier, man, it has to be a lesson. I think this team is, as far as McVey and his staff, I love them because they adapt. They watch the film, be critical of yourself, and let's adapt to what this game was. Like, we've seen this twice this season, how a team can, like I said earlier, air the game out. Really take the air, not air the game out. Take the air out of the game, where it's, keeping our offense on the sideline. If we don't have, any turnovers, it's still going to be a close game based on, the other team trying to keep our offense on the sideline. So for me, it's looking at this game, coming up with a counter to this play style, coming up with maybe if you see a team is playing you like this, maybe you're a little bit more aggressive defensively, just so you can try to get the ball back and get it out of their hand and things of that nature. But just really be critical of yourself this game. You can't win them all. Obviously, you hate saying that as when you lose, but this has to be a lesson for the Rams and the organization, and just how can we adapt to this new style of play, which teams are kind of playing us with, because they know we're so explosive on the offensive side of the ball. And just what is our counter to this counter? And just, today I just think it was a game of chess, and the Panthers came out on top, because I've seen adjustments on both sides on what they were trying to do. Like the fourth down at the end of the game was a cause of, because the Panthers kept going deep on fourth down early in the game. So now you got the guy just sitting down in the zone, and it made the defense of the Rams play a little bit softer coverage, because they felt like, hey, this is fourth down. They went deep, for the 2 other other fourth downs in the game, and got touchdowns on them. Maybe we play off a little bit, and then that allowed them to just sit in the zone and create that fourth down right there. So for me, man, I just think, like I said, the Panthers were the better team today. I think the Rams, obviously you see, and it's a close game. We're a good team. We just can't have turnovers like that. And then when you do have turnovers like that, it's hard to overcome.
Yeah, it is. And it's a game where it could have gone either way, despite the huge turnover gap. So that's one reason to be positive, right? I'm surprised. I'm looking at the comment section right now, and actually more positivity than you would think after losing a game to the Panthers. A lot of people kind of have the same mindset of, this is a frustrating loss, but it's not the end of the world. I think the bigger thing, and we'll talk about it later, is I do think it's a huge missed opportunity in the NFC playoff standings, given that the Eagles lose, given that the Lions lose. It really feels like it's us, the Bears, maybe the Packers. Now you kind of keep the Eagles back in the mix. I still think they're our biggest threat in the NFC. And with this loss, you keep them right on your tails. I want that bye, man. I want that number 1 seed. I want that bye. And I'm really concerned. I'm not concerned that this loss is going to, make us panic about if the Rams are a good team, but it might make things a little bit harder for us to get that bye. And that's why it's frustrating.
I hear you.
We're going to take our break. When we come back, we got plenty more to talk about, man. Why the heck did Sean McVey not run the ball more? Over 7 yards a carry in this one, but you only run it 21 times. Meanwhile, the Panthers run it 40. We'll get into that. We'll talk about, man, Bryce Young. Like, if we can't beat Bryce Young, if we can't beat Mac Jones, if we can't beat these quarterbacks, is it time to go back to being concerned about our secondary? And we will look a little bit forward, both in terms of the NFC standings and the rest of the Rams schedule. We'll do all that when we come back on this live edition and losing edition of the Locked On Rams Squad Show. We'll be right back. Now, on this Sunday, today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. Look, you know the drill by now. I mean, I certainly hope you know the drill by now. But you and I, we make decisions every day. But on PrizePicks, being right, it can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including our wonderful state of California, Big Brock's wonderful state of Texas, where now they can play there too, Georgia and others. So, look, I've been using PrizePicks. For me, look, I work for an NBA team. It's only the NFL for me. But literally on Thanksgiving, I made a PrizePicks slip at 59. Like the game was at, I believe, 1, and I made it at 12:59, like right at the buzzer. What I love, it's that easy. It just takes 2 seconds. I was like, you know what? I'm watching this game. We're eating, we're going to be eating dinner a little bit later here with the family, watching the game. Just throw a quick PrizePicks line and have a lot of fun. And what I took advantage of, the new stacks feature. It's a game changer. You can now pick more or less on multiple stats for the same player. For example, if you had Devontae Adams, you could have picked more or less on his touchdowns, his receptions, and his yards. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups, or $50, in lineup money after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Back here live, Locked On Rams Squad Show. We have the whole Mob Squad, now 2/3 of the Mob Squad here with you as the Rams, no other way to put it. It's a shocking loss. I know the Panthers played a good game. I know they're a team that's maybe going to win their division. That says more about the NFC South than it does about the Panthers, but this is still a bad loss as the Rams fall 31-28. Again, if you missed this game, it started with turnovers and ended with turnovers for the Rams. 2 early picks for Matthew Stafford, including a pick 6. The Panthers feeling good. I know you mentioned Drew Brees on the broadcast. He was like, man, I think they turned up the volume on the music, and suddenly the crowd was getting into it, right? That pick 6, suddenly it's like a college game, right? You throw on Mo Bamba after a pick 6, and man, that stadium was rocking. It was rocking. And fortunately, the Rams were able to kind of calm things down, get their run game going, get some points on the board. But then it's another turnover at the end, a Matthew Stafford fumble, when it looks like they're at least going to get a game-time field goal that has this one as a loss. Big Brock, I want to understand why the heck, and I know D-Mac brought it up. 21 carries for 152 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Rams. If you want to do the quick math, that's 7.2 yards per carry on the ground. And yet the Panthers, who only run for 4 yards a carry, run the ball 40 times en route to a turnover-less win. Big Brock, why in the world didn't we run the ball more? Would we have won this game if we run the ball more? And will we run the ball more going forward? As someone who knows Sean McVey very well.
For me, I think it was a situational game. I think early on, obviously, you get those 2 picks. I feel like the pressure to make something happen was there. So you can't essentially just run the ball and run the clock out. You got to stop the clock, get some big plays, especially when you give them 7 points. So I think it was a little bit of, emotional, you're in the game. You feel like a team that shouldn't be up is up on you. And then now it's like, oh, man, we got to make something happen. So you revert to, okay, more of the passing game, explosive routes and things of that nature. But the X factor, the weather, it was raining. It was a little cold outside. It's hard. The ball is harder to grip, and it's a little slicker, things like that. I think I've seen about 3 or 4, passes that just sailed over people's heads by both quarterbacks. Just because the weather and just how slick the ball was. So for me, I just think the reason why we didn't run it as much had to do with just the situation of the game, being down, not wanting to run the clock out. Like if we can score as fast as possible, getting the ball down the field with a pass, it's better than running the ball out, because they did a good job of running the ball. So if you do it on both sides, it makes the game a lot shorter. So things of that nature, I felt like, is why we didn't run the ball as much as the Panthers, did. And obviously, that was a part of their game plan. I don't think our game plan is to just run out a ball game and, try to play like not to lose. We are an aggressive style offense. Sean McVey is a guy who wants to, keep scoring, and he wants to see 50 on the board if he can. So, I just think that's not a part of our game on one end. It's not just to run the ball out, but on another, I felt like, when in a game like this and you feel like I said earlier, you feel like you're down to a team that you're not supposed to be down to. And maybe he's seen something on tape where, their secondary isn't as good as our guys and he wanted to throw the ball. So, but obviously we were very effective in the run game. It's just, I don't think we could match what the Panthers were doing just because we were down, we were in a tough game.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, someone will say, hey, you ran for 7 yards a carry. Why didn't you keep running? When in reality, maybe half of the reason you ran for 7 yards a carry is because you are throwing the ball a lot. And, the defense can't hone in on the run, right? I think McVey, liked the fact that he almost knew every time he could run the ball, he was going to pick up 6 yards a carry because he's throwing it a couple times and keeping the Panthers honest. The problem is, I would prefer to run the ball until you're not running for 7 yards a carry. And if it ends up being 4 yards a carry, 3 yards a carry in the second half, then guess what? Then you can rely on the passing game. You can rely on – because the one thing I will say too, it's not like they were turning that great run game that we had into wide open guys. I don't think we were. Like, it's one thing if it's, hey, we're running the ball so well, so then when we use that play action that we're so good at, oh, there's just guys wide open, right? Wide open. But it wasn't that. Think about the big completions today. It was Puka Nacua making a one-handed catch with a defender draped all over him, right? It's Devontae Adams catching a touchdown pass where Matthew Stafford looks, there's nothing open. Devontae, reroutes in the back of the end zone, catches a touchdown. It's not like in games in the past where you're running 13 personnel, you're running the ball, you run a play action, and a slow tight end like Colby Parkinson or something. He's not shaking anybody. He's getting wide open because of the run game. This was not that today. It didn't really – there was one 51-yard Xavier Smith catch where he was pretty darn open, and certainly the run game contributed to that. But outside of that, it didn't feel like there was wide open receivers all game. So you weren't even really turning the run game, turning the play action into easy conversions, some tight windows, some contested throws, and Matthew Stafford finishes 18 of 28. Like, I'm not going to do the math there in my head, but that's not a good percentage. I'll do the math quickly here. That's 64%. I know that's not horrible, but you're talking about Matthew Stafford, man, against the Panthers. It's got to be better than that. So I think that's what's frustrating is you didn't even turn that great run game into a great play action day today, and you might as well just keep running the ball. Again, Bryce Young, he only throws the ball 20 times, and he only has 37 less yards than Matthew Stafford. Why? Because he's got a 33-yard completion, a 43-yard completion, a 35-yard completion on 3 of his 15 completions, right? And just like that, because of the run game, he's able to throw the ball down the field, get single coverage a couple times, and expose this Rams secondary. So it's frustrating, man. It really, really is. I'm not going to be one of these guys that doubts McVey. I know there's people here in the comment section saying this has been his kryptonite. He's done it for years. He's, abandons the run game when he shouldn't. I'm not going to question it too much because 2 weeks ago, last week, we're saying he's the second coming. Matthew Stafford's the MVP. There's nothing wrong, right? So it's one game. I certainly like our chances next week, knowing who we're going up against, because in case you forget it, we're going against the Cardinals, who just lost another game to the Bucs, who aren't playing very well right now. As we know, we just killed them. So it feels like that could have been the trap game, a division game in Arizona against a backup quarterback. Now I like my chances if I'm the Rams to go out there and handle business because Big Brock, I'll ask, what's Sean McVay telling this team on the plane and this week after this loss?
Oh, obviously, it's learn from this loss. Obviously, yeah. First and foremost, we can't have turnovers. I think that's obvious. So we eliminate the turnovers. We play good football, especially we stop the run. On defense, and we make a team one-dimensional. Like, that's our formula. That is essentially the formula of the LA Rams: is make teams one-dimensional, get ahead, make teams one-dimensional. Play great defense, get a turnover, and we just outplay the other team. When I look at the way the Panthers played today, it just simply reminds me on how Kyle Shanahan kind of plays McVay. He takes the air out the game. He makes it slow. He slows the pace down. 2, 3, 4 yard gains is okay with him. because essentially that's in the game plan. We're not trying to be explosive. We're not trying to score in one play. We're trying to what's the analogy? Death by 1,000 cuts, I think they say.
There you
where
go.
It's like, we just keep chipping at the rock, and eventually it's going to break. And if I'm looking at that on the Rams staff, okay, how do we counter this? How do we turn this around? Because what I'm looking at this is looking far down the line into the playoffs. Like, how can we keep teams from making this a way to play us personally? Like, what do we do to adjust or counter the way people play? Because obviously this season we've seen it twice. Two different teams have played us the same way, and it does something to us. I don't know if it messes up our rhythm. Obviously, if we can eliminate in both of those games, we had multiple turnovers. If we can eliminate the turnovers and we have kept it close, do we win those games? Do we win those games in situational football? You never know. So I say, obviously, the biggest thing that up today was the turnovers. If we eliminate the turnover, you never know what will happen. We get 3 points here, whatever. But we have to find a way to not allow this type of style of play to be our kryptonite. It's even defensively, do we look at it as, like I said earlier, do we bring more pressure? Do we see teams trying to run the ball 40 times? Do we bring more run pressure? Do we do different things to kind of speed up the other offense so they can make plays, or so they can be quick, or I don't know, be rushed to make a play? So when you're rushed to make a play and you're trying to get out there and make something happen, usually you mess up and you make a mistake. So that's what I'm looking at as far as this game being a lesson for down in the future on how we can adjust to this play style.
Yeah. It truly felt like those turnovers, like you said, we'll never know what the game was without those. And it sounds silly to say because it was a part of the game, but then you lose the game by 3 points where you literally gave the Panthers 7 on a pick 6, and you at least took 3 off the board on that final drive, because there's no way the Rams are not going there and scoring at least a field goal. They were moving the ball well enough to where they are scoring at least a field goal on that drive. So that's 10 points right there on 2 of the turnovers. And you had another pick as well, right, that I'm pretty sure the Panthers turned into points. So at least 10, maybe more points. Look at D-Mac in here in the comments. D-Mac being hilarious, man. Enjoy the cruise, sir. But yeah, the amount of turnovers and the point swings because of that absolutely killed us, right? It absolutely did. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to ask you if you think it changes anything going forward. You look at the teams that the Rams have coming up. Obviously, you got the Cardinals. Huge showdown against the Lions. Huge showdown after that against the Seahawks. And then 2 more that you should win against Atlanta and Arizona. When we come back, Brock and I will give our brief predictions on what we see happen in those games. We'll talk about the NFC standings as well and where we think the Rams are going to finish now that they let one slip away here in Carolina when they could have had a stranglehold on that number 1 seed. We'll do that after our break here on the Locked On Rams Squad Show. We'll be right back. Now, on this Sunday, today's show also brought to you by Gametime. Look, I'm a huge football guy. I'm a huge basketball guy, but you can also tell by the jerseys behind me, both of them signed, by the way, and by the jersey I'm wearing. I'm also a huge soccer guy. And look, the World Cup, guys, is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part, and that's why the Gametime app is clutch. It's finally given fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Look, what I love about Gametime, it's easy. You pull up the app, the layout makes it so simple. You've just got the seat map right there. It only shows you the best seats. It's not going to show you every single seat. If someone's listing a ticket for $300 when it should be $50, Gametime's not even going to show you it, because why would you want to see that? You're not going to buy it. The seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch, what the field, what the court, whatever it is, will look like from your exact seat before you buy. And prices are included up front. The fees are included up front, which I love. No last-second surprises at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Gametime. Back here, Locked On Rams Squad Show, me and Big Brock breaking down a very unfortunate state of affairs as the Rams fall 31-28 in Carolina. I mean, just real quick, Brock, I don't know if you remember your pregame or your, prediction of this game, but I was sitting here going, we're playing the Panthers. If there's one thing the Panthers do, I almost remember it word for word. I said, if there's one thing the Panthers do, it's make every game ugly.
Yes.
You add that,
yes.
and you add that plus the rain, you would have thought this would be a 10-7 game, a disgusting one where it does come down to a turnover or two. It comes down to a missed field goal or two. No, even in the rain, 31-28. They said in the first half of every other game combined in the morning slate, 6 touchdowns combined for every other game. The Rams had the Rams and Panthers, 4 touchdowns combined in the first half alone. That first, just not at all what we were expecting. But again, the Panthers, when you expect something, they give you the opposite. And even to the point where when you expect ugly, they give you a game like this, where it's the furthest thing from ugly. It makes no sense. But Brock, I guess the lesson we learned today, the lesson we learned on Thanksgiving, I don't know if you were watching those games where I think the 3 results you expected to happen, the opposite happened, right? You expect Baltimore to handle Cincinnati, doesn't happen. You expect the Chiefs to get a win against the Cowboys, doesn't happen. You expect the Lions to win at home on Thanksgiving, doesn't happen. Even Friday, you expect the Eagles to handle business at home against the Bears, doesn't happen. You expect the Rams to beat the Panthers on Sunday in Carolina, it doesn't happen, man. The NFL, it makes no sense, man. And we'll see. But I mean, you tell me, were you watching those games on Thanksgiving and Friday? And if you were,
yes.
Did at any moment, did you go, oh man, we've already seen some weird stuff. Is it going to affect our Rams on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the games were, the early game, obviously the Detroit game, I'm like, come on, Detroit, like you can't go out like this. And then obviously Baltimore ending the night with Cincinnati coming out and beating Baltimore. I in my opinion, I was thinking like, oh yeah, the Panthers, easy bet, right? And then we come out and have a game like we did today, plus the conditions that we had, raining and cold. So, it's just been a very opposite week, I guess. You expect one thing to happen and the opposite happens. So, definitely looking forward to the next week playing the Cardinals. And just, getting this game out of our system, because we all know that Lions and Seahawks, those 2 weeks are going to be very hectic in the NFC. And the Lions, both teams are very good. So for me, man, you kind of look at this game, get it out your system, expect it to be implemented versus the Lions and the Seahawks. I know they're going to be watching this game, looking at whatever formula that the Panthers had and trying to just repeat it, because they see that it has an effect on our team. So for me, man, just, get this out of our system, obviously, but looking at how we can counter, and then looking forward to in this week at really dominating the Cardinals. Let's be real. After a loss like this, you want to go out and just really dominate your next opponent, whoever that is.
Yeah. And it's a little bit concerning. I don't know, because we're playing the Cardinals. You expect to win this game. And I'm looking through the scores right now to see what else is going on in the NFL. The Niners handle business, and I go to the standings and I go, wait a second. I'm about to ask you about the NFC playoff picture in terms of the Rams might have lost the number 1 seed today, or at least made it interesting. But wait a second. We got the exact same number of wins as the Niners, right? We've got will probably be the exact same number of wins when it's all said and done today as the Seahawks if they handle business against the Vikings. So this NFC West, unfortunately, is still very much up for grabs, right? And so it's funny. It took weeks for people to finally hop on the Rams train, the Rams bandwagon, like D-Mac was saying. And now everyone's on it. They're saying we're the best team in football. You look up, and we are literally about to be tied with the Seahawks, only up on them in terms of tiebreaker, and basically tied with the Niners, only up on them because they have an extra loss because they haven't had their bye week yet. So it's concerning. It really is. It's not like we just, we're worried about being the 1 seed or the 2 seed. And I'm sitting here watching the Eagles lose, and I'm almost ready to pop champagne. Like, hey, the number 1 seed is ours. Like, it's ours.
Right.
And now, this NFC West is very much up for grabs. You expect us to handle business against the Cardinals, but guess what? You have the Seahawks again in 2 weeks after that. And before that, you've got the Lions. Even if you handle business against Arizona, even if you handle business against Detroit, you got to beat Seattle in Seattle, or else you might not even win the NFC West. And so I don't want to sound the alarm in terms of I don't think the Rams are good anymore or something. I still, if you put 2 teams on a neutral field and said who's just going to go out and win, I think I still take the Rams over any team in the NFL. I think I do that.
Absolutely.
But I'm a little bit concerned about if we can survive a couple division games, Cardinals twice, but mainly the Seahawks in Seattle and Detroit. You kind of need to win all those games or else you might not win the NFC West, and that's pretty hard to do. So absolutely BC in here saying the Cardinals, it's a must-win game, without a doubt. If we're talking about the Rams winning anything, you have to win that game. But it feels like you got to win at least one of the 2 between Detroit and Seattle. You might have to win both, though, especially the Seattle game. If you lose that Seattle game, you might not be winning the NFC West, which who would have said that coming into this week, knowing everything we knew, coming into this one. Now, I'm going to ask you, Brock, real quick, before we get into kind of the rest of the schedule and what you think is going to happen in the NFC, any concerns about Matthew Stafford at all? I'm just looking here in the comment section. A lot of people very, very critical. Stafford single-handedly cost the game with his 3 turnovers. No pun intended. Am I missing the pun there? I don't know what the pun is. I might be missing that one. Gideon says Stafford blanked his pants, plain and simple. Game's on him. Run defense played horrible, giving up the 2 fourth-down touchdown passes, but Stafford, he blanked his pants. Fair enough. What say you, Big Brock? You concerned at all about Stafford after not only an off game, but like a really off game? We're not talking, he only threw 1 touchdown. We're talking 3 turnovers, 2 picks that, one of them's a tip pass, but it's a tip pass in the red zone, and the other one's a pick 6. You concerned at all?
I wouldn't. I'm not concerned. I mean, obviously, this is something that we can't have, obviously, and I think he knows that. He's played 17 years in the league, so. But I think every quarterback has a game like this. I mean, let's not make him seem like he's Superman. Obviously, he's been playing like it, but he's not Superman. Like, you're gonna have a game like this, and unfortunately, it happens at this point in the season. But it might be a good thing that it happened at this point in the season to kind of get that click of like, all right, let's lock in. We can't be beaten. Everybody was praising us and everybody was calling us almighty. And then now we got beat by the Panthers. I think this is a heck of a wake-up call before we end this season with these next, 4, 5, 6 games. And then we have, let's say 2 great opponents coming up. Obviously, we're not talking about the Cardinals at all. We're talking about the Lions and the Seahawks right now. So for me, it's like this might have been a great wake-up call for us just to make sure that we stay on our fundamentals. We lock in because, you can have games like this if you aren't as locked in as you should be. So I don't blame Stafford for this loss because you win and lose together. The defense obviously didn't just play excellent as well this game. I'm used to them, stopping the run and making teams one-dimensional, and that didn't happen today. So for me, it's a whole team deal. We got to play better on defense, and then obviously we can't have the turnovers on offense. And if we can clean those things up, hey, this is one of the top teams in the NFC. And when we're on point, we're hard to beat. So This isn't a normal thing. This is obviously a rarity for us. You just got to handle it as it is. Like that. This is what we can't have, and we got to move on and be better in the future.
Amen. And like I always say, keep the same energy, right? If there's going to be people in here saying, hey, the Rams were underwhelming and the Seahawks were impressive for barely losing a game where Sam Darnold threw a bunch of picks, then keep the same energy, right? Hey, the Rams lost this game to the Panthers, but pretty impressive that they probably still should have won, even though there's 2 picks. One's a pick six, one's in the end zone. I forgot to mention that, right? I said at least 10 points because you throw a pick six and then have a pick that would have at least been a field goal. But you have a pick in the end zone. That's the definition of would have at least been a field goal, maybe a touchdown. So we're talking 13 to 17 points you lose out on, or there's a 13 to 17 point swing because of those turnovers. Keep the same energy, right? We'll be fine. I absolutely agree. Also, you might have saw me giggling a little bit. Look at what D-Mac's coming in here with, Brock. What in the world are we doing? The other things make sense. Yes, you slay. We got BTA yesterday. Warriors struggling. But what is he saying at the end there? That's all D-Mac. I don't know what is going on. What is he trying to put? What narrative is he pushing there? That's crazy. That is crazy from D-Mac. That's all you, bro. That's all you. But yeah, I was trying to keep my straight face there, but D-Mac's messing with me in the comment section. It's hard to. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We're going to take our break. When we come back, I'm going to ask D-Mac, or not D-Mac, I'm going to ask Brock to just tell me what he thinks is going to happen the rest of the way for the Rams in terms of, what do we do these remaining games, where we finish in the NFC, and if this changes anything about us all believing that the Rams are still the favorite to win the Super Bowl. We'll do all that. And there's actually no ad, so we'll be right back. And we're back on the Ram Squad Show. Me and Big Brock. Gotta love that, right? Now,
yes, sir.
Amen. Stay locked in, Ramley, just like Locked On Rams. Again, shout out to everybody in here. Well over 100 people live throughout the entire show. Hope everyone, I don't think I said it, but I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Obviously, happy holidays to everybody. And this would have been the nice cherry on top to a good weekend for a lot of people. You watch a couple teams you want to see lose on Thanksgiving and on Friday. And if the Rams could just handle business here, it would have been an absolutely amazing weekend. All the leftovers you've been eating all weekend and everything. Big Brock, what was on your Thanksgiving plate?
Man, I had a little bit of everything, man. That's what I just tell the wife, man. She said, what you want on your plate? I said, a little bit of everything, man. I got a little ham, yams, kale, a little bit of everything. But I wanted to say this while you were talking, man. Shout out to all our fans out there that join in, that join the comments. While I was in LA a couple of weekends ago, man, I met like 2 or 3 people that said they listen to our podcast or they show up and join our chat. So shout out to all our fans out there. Y'all keep making us number one because we believe we are number one in everybody's hearts. So, man, shout out to y'all.
Amen, man. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Yeah, you guys are amazing. Keep it going. Obviously, whether it's the mid show, the midweek show, the post game show, you guys hold it down all the time. So yeah, he's right. Shout out to you guys. We'll be back here. Whose house? Rams house. Absolutely. And this fan base, don't let anybody get it twisted, right? They're always doubting us. They're always talking about SoFi not being full enough. Suddenly the narrative was changing. I think it was the McAfee show. And he's like, hey, that Sunday Night Football game, man, that building was shaking. Yeah. Give us some credit, man. We'll show up when we want to. Thank you very much. And we're still here. We're still going to be loud and proud because we still are. And I think both of our eyes, the best team in the NFL. Now let's go real quick while we wrap this one up. Let's go game for game the rest of the year. And I want, we'll each give our brief predictions on what we think the Rams are going to do and where they'll finish in this one. So I think we don't even need to waste any time. Both got us beating the Cardinals, I assume, in Arizona. You think it's close or you think they respond to this loss and go BTA like they did against the Bucs last week?
I think it's a BTA. It's always a BTA for the Cardinals. And this is no shade to the Cardinals, but like the Cardinals have never been a threat to me. And I'm be honest with you. Maybe early on in my career they were a little bit of a threat, but since McVey, the Cardinals have never been just an honest threat to the Rams. So I really don't see the Cardinals. So even those 2 games, I'm expecting us to win. So if we don't, then that's just tip my hat to the Cardinals. But I'm expecting us to win. Yeah. But we got a game versus two teams that are not in our division versus the Lions and the Falcons. So we got to see that obviously the Lions are doing great this year. They're not looking as dominant as they were in years previous with Ben Johnson at OC.
Yeah.
But what they're coming with, their culture, how they play. So that's definitely going to be a tough one. And obviously the Seahawks is always going to be a tough opponent to play. They know you. They're in your division. They see you twice a year. So they're always going to play you tough. The one that's in the air, and I think we should be, but I feel the same way as I feel with the Panthers, where it's like you have guys that are on their staff that are familiar with the Rams, especially with the defensive coordinator of the Panthers, being with the Rams for 5 years, and him seeing that offense every day and having a plan against it and things of that nature. Then you go against the Falcons, which had a coach, who was in the Rams facility, years previous, and he's seen this offense and things of that nature. And,
right.
You see the game plan that works against the Rams. So that one is a up in the air one, because I don't know. It's the same feeling versus the Panthers. And it was crazy that they're in the same division where you just don't know what they're going to bring on Sunday when you play them. So if we're focused, we're locked in. Obviously, I feel like we should beat the Falcons. So the two tough games is obviously the Lions and the Seahawks. Don't really know, with whoever comes in locked in and focused and makes less mistakes or win that game. But we clean sweep the Cardinals, and the Seahawks and the Lions obviously is our tougher opponents.
Yeah, yes, sir. Look at Big Brock. Now he's glazing us, or not Big Brock, D-Mac. He's glazing us. Look at the names he's putting us next to. My goodness. I love it though. I do. I love it. I don't love this one though. Take that.
We're supposed to have a big three where our Chris Bosh is never here.
Oh, he called you Chris Bosh, D-Mac. What you gonna say? He called you Chris Bosh. Oh my goodness, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. I would have assumed I'm Chris Bosh, man, but look at that. Hilarious. But yeah, we all got to beat in the Cardinals. I do think the current state of the Lions and the fact that we're at home, give me the Rams in that one. I do feel like the Lions will be a little bit more healthy in 2 weeks, right? Like, I know the offensive line's a big thing for them, because it feels like that team goes where the offensive line takes them. It goes where Jahmyr Gibbs and DeMont take them. We'll see if Amon-Ra is healthy by then. He probably will be. So it's, of course, going to be a tough game, but I expect SoFi to be raucous for that one. And I do expect the Rams to win that game. I'll be honest, though. I'm real scared about going to Seattle, because talk about a home crowd that's great. Talk about the weather potentially being rough. If they leave it open, it could be a really loud and rainy game. And as much as the run game looked great today, if there's a team that wants to make games ugly and gross and, line of scrimmage games, man, it's McDonald and those Seahawks, right? They have a great passing game at times with JSN, of course, and, they're still trying to get Shaheed and stuff in the mix, but they want to run the ball as many times as they can with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and I expect that to be a game. We'll see, too. I think the Cardinals are going to try to run the ball against us. I know the Lions are certainly going to try to run the ball against us, and I still think I'm not worried about our run game. There's a lot of people that are going to see 140 yards or 164 yards, in this game on the ground for the Panthers and go, oh my goodness, the Rams can't stop the run. But again, on 40 carries, we're not talking about what the Rams did where they ran for 152 on 21 carries. They ran for 164 on 40 carries, just basically exactly 4 yards a carry. That's nothing, right? So I still think we're going to be able to hold our own, but we'll see. I think the Seahawks kind of have a similar game plan to the Panthers of run the ball, short pass, run the ball, short pass. Right when we've got him, boom, big long throw to JSN. And obviously the Rams were able to handle business the first time, but obviously there's going to be a new game plan for the Seahawks to try to beat us this time around. If I had to predict, I'm going to say the Rams run the table outside of that Seahawks game. That would leave us with 4 losses. And at 13-4, you hope that's good enough to win your division. You hope that's good enough to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, but you never know. Do you agree? Are you going to go with the same thing, 1 loss to the Seahawks, or do you think we maybe lose to Atlanta or Detroit? Do you think we beat the Seahawks? What do you think, Brock?
Ooh, run the table, man, if I had to put, yeah, I'm biased. I think we win every game. I just think we have the team on paper, especially if everybody's healthy, to win all games. But if I had to throw a loss in there, you know, I feel like we're good enough to beat Seattle in Seattle now. I think we got over that stigma of, you know, playing Seattle, and it's, you know, it's a hard place to play because we've won in Seattle plenty of times. I'm gonna be honest with you, that the Lions game makes me nervous because of just where they are right now, where they're trying to prove, you know, what they're trying to prove to the rest of the league, and just, you know, them having a solid situation with the offense and things of that nature makes me nervous because I know how much BS that they'll run. They're gonna go for it on fourth down every time. You know, I'm expecting some fake special teams. You know, I'm expecting the Lions to just empty the clip. Like they're keeping no bullets in that gun in that game. So if I had to choose which game they'll lose, I would say the Lions one over the Seahawks, just knowing that they know that team and they played them very tough, and they just know how to beat the Seahawks, you know. But the Lions, you know, I'll say a little tough. You know, Jared Goff coming back to SoFi, he obviously wants to prove something. So for me, if one loss they had to lose, I would definitely say the Lions as of right now, just to go against. I don't want to agree with you all the time. I know I don't want to have to agree with you all the time. But yeah, you know, if this is the statement I have to say, and I'm gonna just leave it alone. The rest of these teams, except for the Cardinals, and I hate to do the Cardinals like that. It's almost like Cooper Kupp with D-Mac. But how much I'm shading
just
the
beating
Cardinals,
a dead horse. Just beat them up.
But the rest of these teams are going to test your gangster, man. I mean, it's just like that. They're going to test your gangster. They see, you know, if they can run the ball at least 40 times, that might get them a chance to win a game. And I think other teams are going to kind of take that formula and implement it. So you should be the Rams organization, so right now, and the players or everybody should be looking at this game right now and saying, okay, this is not how we're going to lose again. So for me, I think the rest of these teams are going to try to really test the Rams games and see if they're really about that life as far as playing playoff football, which people are going to run the ball, slow the game down, not make as many mistakes, and see if we can win those games. So I'm excited. You know, if we can run the table and end 13-4, I'll be happy. A happy Rams fan, you know. So
amen. We'll see. I mean, yeah, the one thing that I do like in terms of this Lions game, because I agree, it feels like they need to start winning, you know, to make sure they're in this playoff race, and certainly if they still think they have a shot at the division. But man, they got Dallas next week, who suddenly is a really good team, I guess, or at least a decent team. Right. Then they've got us, and then they've got the Steelers after that. So we're kind of sandwiched between two decent teams, and we're the great team in that 3-game stretch for them. Obviously, they've got us circled on the schedule, but they can't overlook us with Dallas the week before, and they can't even, you know, go all in too much because they've got Pittsburgh the week after, right? So I think we catch them in a good area there. Real quick, I'm curious what the Seahawks schedule looks like, because again, same thing. Hopefully we catch them at a bad time, knowing if they were to beat us in that game, depending on how they do with the rest of their games, they could steal the division from us. And I'm looking, obviously they're playing the Vikings right now. Would love the Vikings to shock the world, but don't expect that to happen with, you know, me playing quarterback there. It's already 10-0 Seattle. So yeah, that's going to be a win for them. Then they're at Atlanta, where again, you know, probably going to win that game. They host the Colts, which is maybe a coin flip game, although Indianapolis lost again this week. Then they've got us, and then they've got the Panthers. Then they end the season with the Niners. It might be a weird scenario where we might be rooting for the Niners in week 18, which I never thought I would say, but we might need them to beat Seattle in order to make sure we win the division. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that if we handle business, but it's going to be interesting, man. There's now it becomes a thing where coming into this week, I was like, I know the Rams are going to win the NFC West. The question is if there's the number 1 seed. Then after Friday happens, after the Eagles lose, I'm like, I think we're going to win the NFC. No. And now it kind of feels like everything's on the table. The Rams could be the number 1 seed, certainly. They could also not win the division. or they could win the division and not be right. Everything seems on the table again, which is kind of how it should be. You know, we're not at week 17 yet. There's still plenty of games to go. And yeah, we'll see. But for now, we're going to try to keep our heads up. We're going to hope that maybe the Vikings can shock the world, although that's not looking likely. But more importantly, let's handle business next week against Arizona. Of course, Ram Squad Show will be back. We'll do our midweek show. We're going to be back to that at our regular scheduled programming with the midweek show. And then we will be back as well again next week live after the game as the Rams take on the Cardinals. But for now, for Big Brock and myself, we're signing off. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Hope your fantasy teams do well. I know I'm going to be watching mine closely. Enjoy the time with the family if you're still there on your Thanksgiving weekend. We'll be back here in the middle of the week. And even after a loss, keep your heads up. Whose house? Rams house. Whose squad? It's the Locked On Rams squad. We'll be back very, very soon. Take care.
Peace.